Hello, you found me in Gracie's kitchen here today in the Glebe House and Gallery. It's a lovely sunny day out, but it's Halloween week. A lot of children are off on midterm and they're about the gardens nowadays, but sometimes the sun's not shining just so much, so maybe we're all thinking of Halloween, but maybe Christmas is around the corner as well, and actually it's the perfect week to maybe think about mixing your Christmas cake. And it's actually very easy. Some people might think it's daunting, but I have a very easy recipe. We were looking through Gracie's old recipe books and we've come up with this one that she probably would have used here in the kitchen. So we have the fruit, which I have steeped overnight. So I'm going to make it is very simple. It's not hard at all, but I suppose preparation is key. But it's something that needs a good bit of mixing later on. So if there's children or there's a few children, I'd say they can get involved getting everything ready and measuring out. So that's education as well. And then we all need a hand with the mixing because it gets really, it's hard work on the biceps later on. So in this bowl overnight, I've steeped about 675 grams of dried fruit. Now I've used a mixture of sultanas, currants and raisins. I've chosen more raisins and sultanas and then a little bit less currants. So I probably have about 300 of each and then just 75 of the currants. So it's 300 each of the sultanas and raisins and 75 of the currants. I've added 150 millilitres of brandy to this. And I just wish you could smell it because the smell in this kitchen with all the ingredients this morning is just divine. We also have some peel. So I have used the peel of the grated rind of a lemon and some of an orange as well. You can use 2 lemons, so it's up to yourself. So that's the fruit mix. To add to that then, we're going to put in some almonds and some walnuts. So I have about 100 grams of each of those, just ready in a bowl. So they're just the whole almonds or walnuts. You could use hazelnuts instead of the walnuts if you wanted to. So we're going to mix this into the fruit that we've had steeped overnight. So that's that one done. So that's the steeped fruit, the orange and the lemon rind, and the nuts. Okay. Now, so the alcohol will preserve this cake. So this is a cake that can be eaten really almost the next day. I'd say we might be slicing into it before Christmas here. But you can also, it's good to wrap it up and leave it in a tin to mature. So we'll chat about that later. Now I'm also going to put in some glass cherries. It says 175 grams in the recipe. There's 200 just in this one. So I'm going to put in most of those and just hold back a few. And kind of sticky glaze in those leaves a nice moist cake as well. So we're just working that in there. It's really simple. And the other thing we're going to add to this part of the mixture is some mixed peel. Okay, again, it's 200 grams in this. It says 175 that we're looking for in the recipe. So I'm going to stick in most of this as well. I love mixed peel in the cake. If you have a bit left over and you make some scones, you can make some just simple plain scones. If you add a little bit of fruit, a few wee bits of peel, if you like them, are nice through the scones as well. So you could use that little bit up and don't waste any of it. So if you can see that now, I just wish you could smell it as well because it's just absolutely divine. Okay, so that's that part of the mixture. Right, the other thing I want to get ready is the dry mix. Now, you'll be amazed at the big pot the big container I'm using for this, but believe me, when you put the two together, you need a good big vessel to kind of get this all mixed in later on. That's actually really the hardest part of doing this. So in this, I've sieved 300 grams of just plain flour, and it's good, it's best to sieve it in. And I'm going to add as well 100 grams just of ground almonds to this dry mix. Okay. Now, the other one that's really nice in this now and makes a real good job is your spices. Now I'm going to use, I have nutmeg, I have mixed spice, I have cinnamon and ginger. For this one, I'm going to add a teaspoon each of the mixed spice and the cinnamon. So the real smells of Christmas, really. And it just gives it a great taste. So now you notice I haven't any scales here. I've just, you can use your scales if you're not used with making things. I judge it like the flour there. I just went for about 1/6 of the bag. Your butter, you're going to cut along the little lines. So it's very easy to judge it when you're used to it. But if not, I'd say just get out the kitchen scales and work away. But if you don't have a set, it is actually quite easy to work away and judge it. You can't go too far wrong. So I'm going to just take a good spoonful of the mixed spice there. That's one of my favorite ones. And just put it back there. And then we're going to go with the same of the cinnamon. And again, a good teaspoon. You won't go too far wrong with that. So now I'll just mix that all up. So you've got the almonds, the flour, and the 2 spices in that. You could add a wee bit of nutmeg as well if you liked. But I think I have really probably put enough in that. Now, this, I probably should have used my bigger vessel for the fruit, but it doesn't really matter. It says that you can add this into the fruit, but I'm just going to put the fruit into the side and then mix them together because it doesn't really matter. And this one is going to be the biggest for me to start mixing into. I'll move that out of the way so as you can see. So there we have it. That's my dry mix. And now I'm going to put all this lovely fruit and nuts and brandy in together. So I'll just coat that bit first. So it's just nice to get the flour coating the fruit now, so that you don't want any bits of lumpy flour in through your cake. But you do it like this, it's really fine. So you're just basically coating the fruit with the flour and the almonds and the spices. And the smell here is just divine. This is going to take about 3.5 hours to cook when we get it into the oven. But I don't know if we'll have to wait that long anyway. But like this, as I said, you could eat this tomorrow. So maybe the disadvantage of making it now for Christmas is that it mightn't last that long. But if it's your first time, I suppose you could say that you're just testing it, and then you could make another one for Christmas as well. I've lined a tin here, just you maybe see at the front as I'm mixing this here, because this is going to just take a wee minute to get mixed in. It is a square 9-inch tin. You can use a round one if you prefer, but I've used the square one, and I've lined it with 2 layers of greaseproof or baking parchment greaseproof paper. So just a double run, so double base and a double run around the sides as well. So again, that's something that the kids can help out. So you just sit your tin down on your parchment paper, cut the square bottom, and then cut 2 strips and go around the inside. And again, and just use, I greased the tin just with some of the edge of the baking parchment as well, and a bit of the butter that I was using in the recipe. So we're getting this really well coated. Look at all the lovely syrup that's there from the brandy and the fruit. We want to get all of that. We don't want any of those flavours lost. So you can see what I mean about getting someone to help. So I think the tradition in our house was that everyone got a stir, and then afterwards, we could all claim that we were part of making the Christmas cake with my granny. Somehow it seemed to be always Granny that we made the Christmas cake with, and I was the oldest grandchild, so I spent a good wee bit of time spending time making the cakes with her. Just mix that all in there now. I'm just taking the time to coat all the fruit with the dry mixture, and then it's going to be a much wetter mix again because we're going to add the eggs. So we're going to have butter, brown sugar, which leaves it a nice richness as well using the brown sugar. So the eggs, butter, brown sugar, and we're actually going to use molasses as well, or treacle. Just a tablespoon of that is going to be our wet mix. So as I say, once you've gathered the ingredients and you get them all together, and this method is fairly foolproof. The only hard bit is the mixing, and so the more helping arms you have around the place, you can give everyone a go with the mixing. And the aroma from this now is really, really good. Okay, so I think that's enough work on that one, because we're going to be doing a good bit of arm work again when we get the wet mix in through this. Okay, so that's the fruit and flour and all mixed in. So we're going to use 6 eggs, 5 to 6 eggs, depending on the size of the eggs. So I think I'm going to use 6 eggs here. I've cracked in a few before. And Gracie probably whisked it all up with one of these. I might use this as well, but I also have my electric mixer here behind me, and I'm just going to maybe use that because the arm's getting a wee bit tired at this stage. The butter I've creamed, so there's 6 eggs. There's 225 grams of the dark brown sugar, 225 grams of the butter, which is softened, and I've kind of worked at that earlier on just to get ahead on that. And then we're going to use a tablespoon of treacle as well in this mix, and I'll just show you a wee trick I have with a wee bit of milk as well. The treacle is very sticky, and sometimes you put a wee bit of milk. It just helps to get that mix going. So I'm going to just tip this in here. That's my eggs, and I'm going to now excuse the noise for a minute. I'm just going to use the electric mixer for a little minute to just get this going. Okay. Whoops. There we go. So can I just go over here with it? Now, that's the noise bit done. That's why I just prepared the butter there earlier. Didn't want to be having too much noise. The brown sugar goes in as well. And just there. And so again, it was the 225 of the brown sugar. So you've got your eggs, you've got your butter, and you've got your brown sugar. And then we're going to add the molasses into this as well. So you see what I mean? It's kind of sticky. But in this bowl here, I have a little bit of milk, and I'm just going to put the tablespoonful. Now this is, I've already used my spoon there, so I'm just going to use this clean spoon and just put a little bit extra. But basically it's 1 tablespoonful of the molasses or the treacle. This is nice to make in scone bread. You can make a treacle scone with it. So that's why I already had it in the pantry. You twist it around, you don't make a mess. You twist around like that, so you don't make a mess. And if we put a little bit of milk in on top, so just put some of the milk in like that, and so it colours the milk. So we're going to get that all into our mix as well. Now this stickiness, once you get it mixed in through the wet mix, you kind of lose that stickiness. It's sticky stuff to work with, so the kids will probably enjoy that. Now, I've kind of bowls out today for you to see, what ingredients we have, but you don't have to create that much washing up with this dish altogether. It's actually quite easy to just kind of you could end up with only two dirty bowls if you wanted. There's nothing like the wooden spoon for getting the mix done. Okay, so before I add it, I'm just going to save myself some work. I'm just going to give this another whisk with the electric whisk, all right? But to be honest, this is a cake that you could do without even the electric whisk, but just use a bit more arm power. So it would be, you wouldn't need the gym the day you do this cake. Not on one arm anyway. Okay, that should do it. As I say, that's just taking a wee bit of the hard work out of it. And now we're going to put this in. So I'm going to put it in there. So you can see the colour that it took on from the molasses. And that's actually going to take as well as a bit of flavour, sweetness and molasses. If you just tasted the concentrated molasses, it wouldn't taste so good, but it actually does lend a sweetness to the cake as well when it's broken down in the quantity of the cake. And here we have it now. We've got, this is where the hard work starts. So it's just a good mix in and get that all out. The smell that's coming up from this now is just divine. you've got all those Christmas smells, the fruit, the brandy, and then the other ones, the nuts and the cherries, and the smell of the rind. It's just lovely. So this is going to be, a fairly wet mix, but you're going to incorporate it all in, and that's why it's important then that you've mixed the flour in through the fruit and coated all the fruit, so that you don't have any kind of floury bits on its own. I use very little milk in the with the molasses. As I say, it was just to kind of get it to be able to work with it. But if you would find that your mixture is a wee bit dry, now you won't know yet, because you could add a little bit of milk to help you along with the mixture. But mixing this now is going to be the one. So we're just going to work away here and just, as I say, I have no help with me today. But if you are cooking at home, I'm sure all the kids will get a stir, and you give your arm a little rest. Usually if I'm making it at home, I get my husband to give it a wee stir for me as well. But we're here today, and there's someone around that could give me a hand normally, but with the social distancing, we can't have anyone else getting involved in the mixing today. So I know we're just coming up to Halloween, as I say, but just now when Halloween's over, we'll be all thinking, I suppose, of Christmas, and especially this year, hoping that we can have families together. And sure, this would be a lovely year to just maybe even bake your first Christmas cake. So I don't think that mix is going to need any more liquid to it, but we're not done yet. So we'll just keep going here. The sun's shining in the window. And now after I'm done with this, I'd love a wee cup of coffee, but unfortunately the cake won't be ready, so I'll have to wait for another few days before I can have a slice of this with my coffee. It's nice to be baking here in Gracie's kitchen, I'm sure. If Gracie's looking down, she'll be thinking that it's nice to kind of have these smells coming into the kitchen again. I'm sure there's many's a day Gracie stood here and mixed cakes and probably did puddings as well. As I say, I'll have an amazing right biceps after this. It's coming together really well. So it's a really rich, lovely, it's going to be a really moist cake. And you can ice this cake, so you could leave it for a while and then decide to put some of the marzipan and the royal icing on it if you like that, or if not, you can just eat it plain. I like it kind of the way it is, and sometimes even a special treat, I put a wee bit of butter on my slice as well. But that's a very personal choice. Some people like that, and some people find it would be repulsive to them. Everyone to their own. So, I'm not seeing any kind of bits of flour there now. We're getting it all together. Now, the big treat of this as well was always to lick the spoon. Now, I'm not saying whether you can lick the spoon or not, because maybe people might think you've got raw eggs, but there'll be that was in days gone by when we had our own hens and they were running around, and we used to love when the cake was mixed. There'd be a fight over who got to clean the bowl. Okay, so that's just a lovely rich mixture there now, and it's well mixed in, so you don't have any of, you know, bits of flour. So you didn't want any kind of little pocket of flour that wasn't mixed in properly. So that was really why I spent so much time when I put the dry ingredients along with the fruit mix, that I spent the time coating all the fruit with the flour, and then it just left this that wee bit easier. So there we are now. That's my cake mixed. And now I'm just going to put it into my cake tin. So as I told you, there's a double layer of greaseproof paper on it there. You could put brown paper around it too, around the outside of the tin to protect it, but you'll probably be making it in a fan oven and it should be okay. One thing, you'll be putting it in for 3.5 hours. It's going in at 150 Celsius or 300 Fahrenheit for 3.5 hours. I would tend not to open the oven door for the first while. We're going to be putting it in the Stanley here today, and I remember the one thing that we had to watch after the cake went in was that my grandfather, the cake would need to be kept at a steady temperature, so we didn't want him coming in and sticking a big fire on, so we had to guard the range and stop the day the Christmas cake was being made, and not let my grandfather near the range with a big bucket of turf. But it would be really important that you didn't open the oven door in the range. But even with the fan oven, I'll tend to leave it alone for the first hour or two. Might have a wee look at it. Because it's in for a good while and it's in a fairly low temperature because it is a wet mix, then we are going to keep an eye, and you could put a little cover. We might put a cover over the top, just so it wouldn't get too dry or burnt up on top. So we're just working this into flattening it down. It's going to fit into the tin nicely there, and just making sure that bit of paper stays up. Boys like mixing it too. It's like mixing kind of nearly like a cement mix. So I don't want to leave any behind. I'll just give this a scrape around. This was the mixing bowl. But this actually is, if you're wondering what kind of a vessel it is, it's the inside of my slow cooker, and it was a good size to work with. It's just something I've learned from years, where it's just easier if you have a bigger vessel to work with. Trying to get every last wee bit here. And I'm really looking forward to slice this. I really wish that the video we're using here had, as they say, smell-o-vision, so that you could smell it. And we're going to be treated to the lovely aroma of this bacon now. I'm just going to show you. So you don't have to be too fussy, just that it's flattened out. And there you have it. So that's the mix, and we're ready to go into the oven. And later on, so it's going to be in for about 3.5 hours. So when we're taking it out, and I'll come back to you then, and we'll probably, whilst it's still hot, we'll test it with the skewer first of all to make sure that if the skewer comes out clean, that it's done. And then we will probably pour some more of the brandy over the cake, and that does two things. It preserves the cake, and it also makes sure that it's really, really moist. Hope you enjoy making your Christmas cake. Right, so just over about 3.5 hours later, and we're ready to take our cake out of the oven. I have been kind of babysitting it now for the last half hour and just making sure that it was ready, and we've stuck a skewer in and it's come out clean, so we're ready to take it out. Smells good. I really wish you could smell the aroma that's in the kitchen here now. We have to wait another wee while because we're going to let the cake cool overnight in the tin. Just to make sure this cake can last for up to 12 months. I don't think it will last that long, but the alcohol preserves the cake and it also keeps it nice and moist. So we're just going to put maybe 2 small spoonfuls of brandy. That's what we use. Just over the cake now when it's warm. To store this cake, so we'll leave it overnight in the tin. We'll take it out of the tin then. It is actually ready to eat, but if we're going to keep it for Christmas, we're going to, anyway, to keep it in between times as well, we're going to wrap it in the greaseproof paper and then a layer of foil and then keep it in a good cake tin.